Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the FamVestor podcast. I'm your host, Sunny Burns.
And I'm your co-host, Sunmarie Burns.
So today we are doing a solo show. It's been a while since we've done a solo show, and we wanted to discuss tidying up. Mm-hmm. So we just finished the Marie Kondo book. We both read it together. Actually, I still have an hour left to listen to it, but Sunmarie finished it.
I did.
And then we went on a cleaning binge for a little bit here. It's been a couple weeks of cleaning. Yes. Just here and there, category by category, as Marie mentions. But that's what we've been doing, and that's what we kind of want to share about, because it really is quite transformative. You should see this place. I know it doesn't look any better from what you're seeing. It's always kind of messy that way, but we've done quite a bit of work here, up here and stuff. It's been good. And check out these shirts, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, we got nice FamVestor t-shirts made. Pretty cool.
Getting professional here.
Yeah. Anyway, we always try to try new things, try to improve, try to do different things, try to make our lives more effective, more meaningful, more intentional. Like today, we actually tried something new with the kids. So like we shared a couple months ago, we finally kicked the kids out of our bedroom, into their own bunks. And that's actually been going really well. They've slept every night in there. There's been no complaints. Sometimes in the early morning, they do come into our beds again. But it's been going surprisingly well.
Yeah.
But we have found that, they get over anxious, over rambunctious. And at night, if they're not put down calmly, they start escaping from their room to play. I don't know. He keeps going to the bathroom to steal the towels. Our son has a folding obsession. He steals towels to fold them.
Yes. To refold them multiple times and
stack
them in his room.
Yeah, it started with blankets. He would take all the blankets from the house and start folding them. Yeah. I have no idea where this came from, but it's a recent thing.
We'd tuck them in at night, both in their blankets, and then come in to check on them an hour and a half later.
Surrounded by blankets.
And he stole all the blankets from his brother, who's now laying there in a heap because he has no blankets. And he's just sitting there at midnight folding his blankets.
Yeah. Anyway, our friend Andrea recommended something that she tried, and so we tried it tonight. And she likes to, she recently started listening to a meditation app, her and her husband, in the kids' room. So the rule is, hey, we're going to do a meditation thing, and we can either do it in the living room or we can do it in your bedroom. Lights are off, you guys are in bed, you guys are quiet. If you guys make noise, we're leaving, we're out of here. But for 10 minutes, we're going to do this meditation app, and it just kind of, the kids like the parents being there, so they just quietly respect, and that 10 minutes of calm is usually enough to kind of put them down to sleep and not have any havoc going on for the rest of the night. And it gives the two of them a chance to calm down as well and go through meditation. So we gave it a try tonight. Didn't work out 100% successfully, but maybe it's because we were too cheap to buy the $5 app she recommended. So maybe we'll make that investment if we can...
But it was a good first go.
It was.
And there were outside factors that caused some trouble.
That's true.
I was cooking something.
Summer was baking 3 quiches, and it's currently 9:55 p.m. You were doing that 30 minutes ago.
Be productive,
Anyway.
So that was just a little update about us and what's going on in our life right now. And very quickly, before we jump into the show, we just want to give a shout out to a couple of our listeners who have left us some reviews.
So we had 2 great reviews come in recently. We had one from Sammy Uyama, who's listened to every single episode on the show. So thank you, Sammy. And he says the podcast hits all the buttons and goes on and on about how cool and awesome we are as a couple. So we need more of those. Keep those coming.
Thank you for that review.
Thank you, Sammy. And then we had Doreen Toyota. She says relatable, interesting, and inspiring. So definitely thank you for all the reviews. They do make a difference. So if you have the chance, hop on iTunes, leave us a rating review. We really do appreciate it. We read each and every one. So thanks again, and let's get to the show.
You're listening to the FamVestor podcast. If you're looking to raise your family with intention, gain financial independence, and live a life of true freedom, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore together how to create thriving families, because strong families are the cornerstone for a world at peace.
Welcome back. So in today's show, we want to talk about tidying up your life, simplifying, cleaning, and just tidying up
Yeah, minimalizing for the important stuff, and just so you don't stumble on anything, all this materialistic possessions you might have. Really, just getting rid of what's not important, what's not sparking joy, as Marie would say.
Right. And where did this inspiration come from for us? Well, for us, we have one major life announcement, and that's that we're expecting our third child.
Mm-hmm.
We are 9 weeks out from that now, looking at a January 2020 baby.
Yep.
So we're very excited about it. But with that
Comes
came...
nesting.
Yes, I guess so. I hate that term. But anyway, yeah, it just came this urge for me to just get our life in order. And, I looked around me everywhere, just so much stuff, so much clutter. My kids were constantly like tearing the house apart. I felt like all I did every day was run around behind them trying to put everything back where it belonged and getting frustrated along the way. If I made any attempt at cleaning, they were right behind me undoing the whole thing. So it just became this perpetual madness, and I'm like, why am I doing this, And so we just got to thinking, well, what's the solution to that? And I'd heard of the book, The Joy of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. And a few of my friends had read it, some recommended it. So I thought, oh, why not give that a read? So we got it in audiobook format, and I started listening to it. And I found it really inspiring. It was the motivation I needed to actually start going through my things. Some of it is kind of common knowledge, but other aspects of it actually were quite insightful, and I really loved her just her philosophy behind assessing what you truly need, what truly does bring you joy in life, and what is just excess and getting in the way from living a fulfilling life. So I found that really inspiring in the book. So we're just going to go over a little bit our journey, exploring our adventure into decluttering, and a little bit about the premise behind her book and some of her principles that she sets forth to help you do that. So that's what we're going to dig into.
And for those that don't know, Marie Kondo, she's kind of a big deal now. She's a New York Times bestseller, international bestseller. She actually just had her own Netflix show, which also just popularized her. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about her.
Right.
And we're actually going to have two Marie Kondo or Kondo Marie certified organizers, cleaners, tidiers on the show later on this year, right before 2020. So that should be fun to dig in with them, their strategies that they go in through with their clients, and tips for families on how to declutter their lives.
Right.
I think one thing that you mentioned about the kids, the kids constantly having just so much toys and like going everywhere and taking a second to dismantle the house with the toys strewn everywhere. One good strategy that we kind of did was, hey, you guys have 5 minutes to clean your room, and anything that's still kind of left out is going in the garbage, or at least to the basement for a month, and then when they get it back after a month, it kind of refreshes. So kind of depends on the day whether it's going in the basement or the garbage. But most of the time it's in the basement. And that's a way to get rid of a bunch of toys and kind of have more spaces to organize those toys, to keep that clutter out of your life, but also a very motivational tool for them. What? I got 2 more minutes before some of these toys disappear. Let me get to cleaning my room.
Right. I mean, it sounds a little harsh, but I think the idea behind it, and what we try to explain that to them as well, is if you aren't capable of caring for your things responsibly, then you aren't old enough to have them in your possession. So we're going to take them away for an indefinite amount of time, maybe totally away, or just away until you show more responsibility for it. Almost like the attitude you'd have towards giving your child a pet. If they can't be responsible for it, then they shouldn't have it. So we approach it similar with their things. If you can't take care of it, keep it in a proper place, you just leave it laying everywhere, then obviously you're not ready for it. So that's kind of what we're trying to teach them there. So when they realize what do they actually value, sometimes the stuff that goes in the basement, they're like, they never asked for it again. Other things, they're like, oh, I missed that. When can I get it back? And then we'll usually talk with them and say, well, you're going to do a better job this time. Yes, I'm going to do a better job. Where are you going to put it? I'm going to keep it here. And it just brings more mindfulness for them too. Our kids are by no means expert tidiers.
Definitely not.
Keeping their room clean. It's a daily struggle.
They're very good at stuffing things into corners, into holes, into little baskets.
They're good at hiding their stuff.
Very good at hiding. Not organized, not tidying in the Marie Kondo sense. So let's get into the Marie Kondo sense. What is a breakdown of her step-by-step procedure on tidying up your house?
Right, so she lays out 5 categories, and she separates everyone's belongings into 5 categories. She says that there are 5 basic categories that everything falls into, and there's a certain order in which you should go through each category as you purge your belongings. The first category is clothing. The second category is books. The third is paperwork. The fourth is something she calls komono or miscellaneous stuff. And the fifth is sentimental things. And she's placed them in this order intentionally because she feels that clothing would be the easiest to separate yourself from and to really start warming up to her process of discovering whether the item sparks joy or not. And then as you get more used to it, you can move on to the more difficult things like books and papers, and then especially sentimental things that she says keep for last, because it's the hardest thing to part from and to assess whether it's really worthwhile keeping. So she lays out these 5 categories, and her basic premise is that from every corner of your house, you take anything that belongs to that particular category. So if you're doing clothing, you would go into your attic and into your basement and into your closets and into your bureaus and shelves and remove absolutely everything that falls within that category.
And throw it all in one location on the floor.
One giant heap.
Right.
And she says it's really important to do that because if you don't truly understand the true quantity of what you actually own. It doesn't hit you. And so you need to pull it all out, lay it in a pile, and then look at it and just go, oh my gosh, I really own this much. And in seeing it in that large quantity makes you understand, well, I don't need so much stuff. So then you can begin the process of going through it and deciding what's worthwhile keeping and what's not. And her basic rule of thumb for deciding whether something should go or stay is to pick it up, feel it and hold it in your hands and look at it and assess what emotion it brings to you. Does it bring you joy? That's her major rule of thumb. Does this item bring you joy or not? If it doesn't spark joy, then it should go. If it's something that you just feel guilty and that's why you're holding on to it because someone gave it to you and you felt bad giving it away, that's not joy, that's guilt. Get rid of it. And keep only the things that you truly feel joyful about.
So an example, I think this is like the second step we did. I think we did most of like the cloth clothing first, and then we did the category within clothing of shoes. And so we gathered all the shoes around. And, I was thinking maybe, being a guy that I have 6 pairs of shoes. Actually, I thought I had like 4 or 5. And what ended up happening, I think, was I gathered 18 pairs of my own shoes. Collectively in this household, we only have 2 boys right now, 75 shoes, 75 pairs of shoes, which, I feel like we're kind of like minimalist.
We are by no means shoe fiends.
Yeah,
I do not go buying shoes. I don't even know how I acquired half the shoes I had there, just over years, and they just pile up, we don't go shopping for shoes. I don't even remember the last pair I bought.
Yeah, so for those on YouTube that are viewing this on video, here's a picture of our 75 pairs of shoes all sorted. Here's the heap. Our kids are playing on top of the heap. But once we sorted, there was 75 pairs of shoes just for us 4 people.
It was shocking.
Which is insane.
I thought I owned maybe 10 or 12. I think I ended up having 27 pairs of shoes.
And we ended up getting rid of half of them. Not exactly half. We got rid of 31 pairs, but 31 pairs of shoes that we didn't need. I mean, it wasn't exactly easy to get rid of it, but, we made the decision, hey, we don't need this many shoes, and these 31 are not adding to our lives, so let's get rid of them. Some, we resold on eBay and donated, and but others were just, trash. It was time for them to go, and it was just that we just didn't know what we had, Like I said, I thought I had 4 or 5. I ended up having 18 pairs. Right. And I'm a pretty logical guy. I keep track of these things. At least I thought I did.
He's always been on me about my shoe collection. He's like, you have too many shoes. I'm like, no, I don't. I think I got about 12. He goes, well, I've only got 4. Well, neither of us were right.
No, most definitely not. So it's shocking, and it's really kind of cool, It really makes you see, and when you see that many pieces of anything, you're just like, man, this is excessive. Yeah. And things need to change, things need to go. And now everything fits into our shoe shelf, which is awesome.
Right. And we know every single shoe that we own, so that if ever we have an occasion, we know exactly what we've got. Right. And whether it will serve the purpose or not. It's not like, oh, maybe I have something, And I think one of the most profound things is just seeing your things in a pile and just feeling the weight of waste, basically. Like, you look at that pile and you're like, I haven't seen, worn, or thought about half of these shoes
3 years
in years. Yeah. What are they still doing in my house?
Right.
So it was very freeing. It was very, very humbling and shameful.
Yeah, I felt ashamed to have 18 pairs of shoes.
Right.
Calling myself a minimalist. I mean, I don't call myself a minimalist, but I feel like we have that mindset of, we live in a small house, small apartment, and what we've accrued over the years, and man, it's shocking. So I definitely challenge you, I don't know, maybe not go through the whole thing, but go through some categories. And if you have the time, it is a process. I would definitely recommend the process. So let's go next step. You've categorized, what's
so
next
you
step?
You categorize your things. One of the other rules for her, she does allow you to subcategorize. So if you're going through clothing, she allows you to do certain categories. Like you could do just sweaters, or you could go through all of your winter clothes, or you could go through just your shoes. Something like that, where it's a subcategory, because if it's everything, then it's overwhelming. And one of her other rules is that whatever you do, you have to do it in one go. Don't, do a little bit here, a little bit there over a few days or whatever. It's commit to what you're doing, put it all out there, and don't stop till it's done. So you have to be realistic with timing, okay, how much can I really get done in a day? So that's why we broke it down that way, where we tackled the shoes on one day, because we said, we've got 3 hours, we can handle shoes, If we'd taken everything out, right, we would have had a massive heap in our house for weeks, and that can become overbearing, and then you may never end up getting through it to begin with, and then you just feel so discouraged by the weight of it. So that's another thing that she says is one of her rules. Do it all in one go. Select the category or subcategory, do it all in one go.
Man, the amount of garbage bags we filled in the last couple of weeks is amazing.
Right.
I don't know how many garbage bags, but I'd say in the 20s or 30s.
We just tackled papers yesterday.
Oh man, yeah, that alone.
Papers. We went through
all our documents,
file folders, documents, mail, paper, anything that was paper related.
Seeing my elementary school marking period, report cards, and all that.
Right, and papers are pretty difficult. That's why she puts it as the third category. It's the middle level difficulty in her assessment. So we tackled papers, and it really helps to listen to her book too, because while she's explaining the different categories, she's also going into the way you should think about your things when you're assessing them. Do they bring you joy is her main premise, but she's also talking about worth and value, both in terms of, for you, is it bringing value into your life, or is it simply clogging space? And also the value of the object. Is the object being honored in your home? Or is it best to pass it on, where someone else can honor it better. You know, is this sad pair of shoes truly fulfilling its purpose in your house, or would it be better off maybe donating it if it's still usable, and someone else may wear it and fulfill the purpose it was intended to fulfill when it was created? So I really liked that idea too, because I a lot of times have guilt around the idea of getting rid of things. Like, well, it's still usable, you know, it's a shame to get rid of it. And maybe one day I will use it. And the truth of the matter, and as she mentions many times, that one day rarely ever comes. You know, you forget about it, and it's just sitting in the back of your closet, not fulfilling its purpose.
And my philosophy is let the stores store it for you, you know, and when that someday comes, just go order it again. Go on Amazon, you'll have it in 2 days, and you are paying that storage fee to have it back, essentially, by paying that purchase price.
Right. And she mentions that too. She says, you know, the only way you truly know whether those someday things are things you actually are going to get to one day is once you let them go. If it really haunts you in your mind, majority of things you can reorder. It's a little bit different with the sentimental category, but pretty much everything else, a book you decided you gave away and you wished you hadn't because you wanted to read it, you can reorder it. You know, a pair of shoes, you can go buy them again. A clothing item, you can get something very similar. So the idea there is that to truly know whether that someday is going to come around, get rid of it. And if it remains on your mind, then reacquire it. But don't hang on to it with the thought that perhaps one day it will, because that's just creating clutter in your life. That's causing stress on many different levels. Stress in just keeping your area clean, stress in your mind about having to think about all the things that you own and have to maintain. Just get rid of it.
Let's go to the next step. You've gathered all these bags. Do you automatically just donate it, or maybe you ask your family? What's the rule there?
So she's very clear on that rule. Once you've put all your things that are leaving the house in a pile in your bags or whatever, do not let your family go through it. Because they will inevitably start going, oh, you're getting rid of that? Oh, I remember you loved this at one point. And then brings in the guilt factor. And then it muddles your thinking about whether you truly do want to get rid of it or not. It brings in the guilt factor. So don't do that. And she also says, don't pass on things to family members because you are too shy to give it away yourself. You know, it's actually, she says, one of the cruelest things you can do is give things to your family, because then they have a sense of obligation to keep it. It's like it wasn't something they went out and bought because it brought them joy. It's just something you handed them and said, hey, you want this? And they're like, oh, maybe. And now it's an item in their closet that was never truly their style or their taste, but they took it because maybe someday it'll have use in their life. And then, as we just explained, that maybe someday rarely comes.
Okay, so what happens next? Let's say you do donate, or someone goes to the garbage. What's next?
So the next thing is putting back what you have decided you want to keep, the items that do spark joy for you. So she gives a lot of good tips on how to properly restore your belongings. She recommends open shelves where you can see everything that you have.
And if not that, then clear containers. She says she loves putting bookshelves inside closets, so that when you're in the closet, you can have everything neatly laid out, so that when you open the closet doors, you see everything that you have stored in there. Don't store them in boxes you can't see in. Don't stack them in piles. Don't squish them into bags, because you're going to forget what's in there. She recommends folding clothing in a certain way, so that it stacks neatly and vertically inside your drawers. Almost like books inside a drawer. So you open the drawer of your dresser, and all your clothes are neatly stacked in a row. They're not piled on top of each other. So when you open it, you can see exactly which shirt is in front, in back, and so forth. And she says it makes it a lot easier to know what you have and to constantly be able to reassess as you open that drawer. Does that particular shirt bring me joy? Have I touched it in a month or two, you know? And it helps you maintain the tidying up lifestyle.
So she also mentions that when you are storing your items back, put everything that belongs in the same category in one place. Don't store it in little stashes around the house, because then you're going to create more clutter and you're not going to clearly know where to put things away when you take them out and use them. And then that's how clutter happens again, is just laying things in places they don't belong. If you have a clear place where something belongs, that's where you're always going to put that item back, and it's going to be a lot easier to maintain your cleanly lifestyle. So I thought that was a valuable tip.
Right. So all in all, nothing here is complex. It's very simple. It's a very simple method. But if you can practice it, we've felt the benefits already. Not being completely done yet, but pretty happy with all the results so far. Definitely a lot of emotion going into it. What emotions have you felt, Slim Marie?
I definitely felt the change from being overwhelmed.
Right, we just didn't want to start this whole process.
Right, just like looking at areas of my house and getting depressed. And then it would just carry over and spill into other areas of my life. I'm so overwhelmed, I don't have anything under control. And then gaining back a sense of control by tackling the boogeyman, from a physical sense, tackling the things that are physically causing you stress, your belongings that you have too many of. Going through them, sorting them, organizing them, and truly taking ownership to know exactly what it is that you have and where you have it stored and what you're going to do with it. And that's very empowering and uplifting.
It is, once you get it done. But yeah, tackling that boogeyman, that's the hard thing. Like this office that we're recording in now is just like, it took me like 3 or 4 days to build up the courage to, okay, let's start tonight.
It's been our catch-all room for the past
3 years. And
it's like, I don't have a place for this, throw it in there.
Right, and now we've organized it so there's specific designated spots for specific designated categories.
There's nothing hiding under the dresser and behind the piano and in the cabinet.
It was a lot, especially those papers, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
But,
and so now every time I walk by this room,
it brings this joy.
It's just like, wow.
It's so clean.
It's such an uplifting feeling, I sometimes just in the middle of the night when I get up to walk around, I go take a peek just to make myself happy. Open the door and go, Yeah, but it is a really rewarding experience to take ownership of your life, particularly starting with your things.
Right.
And with this whole process comes a mental shift that happens too, which is also a really profound thing that I noticed through this process, is as you are assessing your belongings and putting your things in order, you're also putting your mind in order. You're thinking about other areas of your life and assessing it and thinking, does that bring me joy? Am I living a fulfilling lifestyle? Am I doing too much that I'm actually overstressing myself? And maybe I could simplify my life in those ways too, so that I create more inner peace. And so that's an interesting thing I noticed happening too. It's helped quite a bit. And our boys are picking up on it too. They see us tidying. Sometimes it's good.
To tidy.
I mean, they see us pulling everything out in one category, making a pile in the middle of the room. So they get that.
Oh man, yesterday they took out the big Mega Block Legos and then the little tiny Legos and put it all in one box. And I guess,
Well, they dumped it all out on the floor to begin with. And then we told them to put it away, so they put them all back in one box.
Rather than the separated, little Legos and big Mega Block Legos. So we had to, they had to, but it took them like 3 hours to sort through that whole mess. But I wasn't helping them.
Now today they're walking around going, I need to sort things. So they're picking up bits and pieces of this. They don't quite have it down, but it's rubbing off on them, which is fun to see.
Another great tip I want to share, I don't know if it was in the book, but one that we try to live by, is when you're making a purchase, try to think of, okay, if I buy this, where is it going to go in the home? Mm-hmm. And, having a spot for it. And if you can't think of that spot, don't buy it.
Right. I have an example of that. I happen to love buying tea sets. It's sort of one of my weaknesses. I love tea sets. And
so we have a cabinet full of tea sets.
We do. We have one cabinet with 6 shelves. And when we moved in here, I said, that's going to be my tea cabinet.
She did.
And he's like, all right, fine, whatever. That's fine. Just you got to promise me whatever you buy must fit in that cabinet. If you don't have a place for it anymore, then you must stop.
That's generous, right? One cabinet full of teapots? I think that's pretty generous.
Yes. So I started out, I got 6 shelves. I can get 6 tea sets. And it's been interesting because I've had them all filled for a few years now.
Overfilled.
Yes. And through this process, too, I got rid of 2 of those tea sets. So now I actually have a shelf that I can go acquire another tea set with. And that makes me excited because I haven't been able to buy one in a while. But the good thing is that it is a nice checkpoint to limit yourself, even if you are a hobby collector or something, to kind of have a limit. It's okay to collect things if they bring you joy. And Marie Kondo says that too. If there's a particular thing that's just your thing and it brings you joy, that's fine. Just keep it in check and make sure it's under control. So this is the way we do it. It has to have a place, and we always ask each other, if you're going to buy that, where's it going to go? And what's it going to do? And it really does help. And it has prevented me from buying many tea sets I've come across and just had that spur of the moment, I need this.
Sunri does like to host a lot of finer lady league tea parties and things like of that nature.
So it's not that impractical for me. I do use them.
Right.
So as one parting point that remains to be said, Marie Kondo talks about don't get trapped into the idea or the notion that you need to buy more storage containers or rent a storage unit or get a bigger house to accommodate your things. She said that a lot of times the best things to use to store your items are the simplest things, like an old shoebox that you have sitting around the house. If you are going to buy anything, keep it super simple, like a plastic clear bin that you can get at Dollar Tree or wherever. She says don't invest a lot of money into those things. They are not actually helpful. And if you think that you just don't have enough space for your things, you need to rewire your thinking, not your things. So you need to get used to the idea that wherever you are at in your life, if you live in a small studio apartment, if you live in a 3-bedroom house, whatever it might be, wherever you are is the place you're meant to be, and it's the right size for you right now in your life. And if your stuff is crowding you, then it's a stuff problem. It's not a place problem. So fix the stuff. Get rid of stuff so that now you do fit everything into the space that you have, because that's what's truly going to make you happy. Going out and getting a bigger apartment just to accommodate your things isn't really going to make you happy, because you're not solving the true issue, which is your attachment to things. You're going to constantly go out and be tempted to buy more things, and soon that bigger place isn't going to be big enough anymore either. I mean, I grew up in a very big house. It was a nice, beautiful old Victorian mansion, actually. Had 26 rooms. And we filled that house. We lived there 28 years. So obviously that sort of thing can happen very easily if you're not intentionally going through your things systematically and assessing them.
We still had Sunri's crib from when she was a baby.
Yes.
That was a very
very
hard move out.
Yeah.
So much stuff.
Right. And so no matter how big the house is, you can always fill it. So it's more of a mental shift, just acknowledging the space that you have and that you live in, being happy and content with it, and making what you own fit into it properly. And if there's too much, then stuff has to go. So that's a real big mental shift that she encourages, and it's definitely a healthy habit to adopt.
So we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope that, it motivates you to take some action, organize your life a little more, and maybe it's not just your material possessions, but maybe it's how you think of things mentally, or how you're scheduling your day out. And if you do take some steps, we'd love to hear about it. You can leave us a voicemail, you can email us, just let us know. Maybe you do the whole thing and Marie Kondo your home. So we hope you take some action. We hope you enjoyed some of our tips. And definitely stay tuned for future podcasts. We hope to catch you guys around. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck. Godspeed.